Good morning, everybody. This is the Personal Playlist Podcast, fondly referred to as the P3 on Voice Ed Radio. I'm Noah Daniel.
Music is a world within itself, with a language we all understand.
I am so excited to have Catherine Tang here on the Personal Playlist Podcast. Catherine is a teacher with the Limestone District School Board. Most of her teaching has centered around integrated arts, but this year she's doing something a little bit different and has taken on the role of a grade 7-8 guidance teacher, which is a new role in Ontario. She's someone who loves to blur the lines between subjects while helping her students connect with each other and the world beyond the classroom. She enjoys designs, books, and travel, and getting an Apple Pencil this year has changed her sketchnoting life forever. Welcome to the show, Catherine.
Thank you so much for having me, Noah.
Well, I'm so happy that you're here. You and I have known each other for a while. We've been on Ed Mentors for 2 years now. And you did the first ever sketch note of my Building Outside the Blocks approach that actually sits on my desk in a frame. I don't know if you know that.
I didn't. I knew I had done the sketch note. I remember you talking to me and you're like, you should actually sign your name on this. Yeah, so I do remember that.
How has the Apple Pencil changed your sketchnoting?
Well, so my husband we also got an iPad Pro, and so I used to use this this app called Notability, and it allowed me to draw. And so I was using like very crude, like those those little pens that had like a rubber tip, and then you could kind of draw. But mostly I was just using my finger. But having the Apple Pencil now, I can actually do sketch notes, and then if I make a mistake I can erase it. And whereas if I'm doing it on paper, once I make a mistake it's like, oh well, I guess I either fill it in or I try to make it look like something else. So it's been amazing.
That is really cool. I'm actually really good friends with our school's guidance teacher, who's also my mentor this year, because I'm going through NTIP. So this is a very fun thing because I'm learning a lot about her learning a lot about this guidance role. You took some really cool notes, and I was using your notes as an example of integrating thinking and visual learning for the guidance teacher role. Do you want to talk a little bit about this role?
Sure. So pretty much I work with intermediate students and also their teachers. I help students better understand their skills and their strengths and their interests. And my role really is to engage them in different pathways planning opportunities. So we use my blueprint to explore occupations. I'm in the midst of grade 8 course selections right now.
Yeah, we are too.
Yeah, so that's been a lot of, small group or one-on-one conversations with kids, which I found really fulfilling. And even just getting their feedback, it's, really spurred them to think a little bit more deeply about what they're interested in, what pathways they want to go down. And then I've also had a really great chance to just meet with other teachers and to co-plan with them and just to organize events that will expose kids to different opportunities.
I think that's one of the interesting challenges today is kids have to know much earlier what they want to do and kind of backwards design the courses that they want to take to do that. So there's a lot of thinking and experiential learning that can help kids get there. And so the guidance teacher's that essential bridge that was missing from the grade 8 transition to high school for sure. I'm so glad that the role exists.
And I think it's funny because a lot of teachers will say to me, like, these kids they're in grade 7, they're in grade 8, like they're 11, 12, 13. They really haven't thought a lot about their futures yet. But I think in this role, I see part of my position as being just exposure, right? Exposing them to different options. We're not asking them to pick at grade 7 and grade 8 what they want to do for the rest of their life. We're just helping them to figure out what works for them and what some potential opportunities would be.
Yeah, but at the same time, like they have to kind of create schema around their own interests and put themselves in the equation, because even though most of grade 9 is mandatory, it really starts to open up. I love the way the high schools are showing the big picture of what's there, not just academically, but extracurricularly. And I hear my students be like, oh, I want to be in the drama experience and I want to make sure that I take this, and oh, yay, STEAM, and really seeing the many opportunities. Yes. There was a really interesting issue raised today about kids who want to be part of STEAM but it's an academic course and they're not in an academic stream. So there's lots of conversations to be had, and it's great that we have people who, even if you're not experts yet, are great liaisons and thinking about the big picture needs of our students.
Mm-hmm.
And speaking about big pictures, tell us a little bit about the big picture of it, preparing for your P3.
So it's been, I guess, a fairly long time coming. I know this P3 has been happening for a long time. And I remember when you reached out to me last year, you're like, I'm booking into February. I was like, wow. So I had a lot of time to think about it. And I think having to choose 3 songs really forces you to think about what matters to me, because there are a lot of songs that, are catchy or that I like to sing along to, but they're not necessarily songs that I would say define me in a particular way. And so I think this process was really interesting because it forced me to, curate this musical experience for somebody that tells a story about my life as well.
Well, I'm glad it was interesting for you. So let's get there. Let's talk about your nostalgic song and why you chose it.
All right. So my nostalgic song is Homeland, and it's arranged by Randall Stroop, but it's a choir song. So, okay, I guess I can explain. The music for the song is actually Gustav Holst has this piece called The Planets, and so it's like different songs for different planets. And so the melody of the song is from Jupiter. And then the words were written on top of it. And so I picked this song because when I was younger, from starting in grade 1, I was part of a children's choir. And I was in it all through until grade 12. And we went on international tours. So my very first one was when I was 7, and we went to LA and then Hong Kong. And we would sing like both English songs and also like Mandarin songs. And so this song is actually from one of my last tours when we went to Hawaii in 2005.
Okay, I only know how to say Kong Hei Fat Choi, which is Cantonese and not Mandarin, but I forgot to say Happy New Year to you. And what an amazing experience to be traveling at such a young age. How did this configuration work with this choir? Were there people of that span of age group?
Yeah, so pretty much when I joined, I was in grade 1 and I was among the younger groups, or like we were in the senior choir, but I was in the youngest, probably one of the youngest in that choir, and it spanned, into teenagers, and we sort of had different iterations of the choir. And we would meet together on Saturdays. We would rehearse usually for 2 to 3 hours every Saturday. And then we would have performances throughout the year. And then every few years we would go to an international choir festival.
That's really cool.
Yeah. And
okay, well,
sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead. Sorry. No, you.
And I think because choir was such a big part of my childhood, I wanted to pick a song, not so much for the words of Homeland, because it's very patriotic, but it just sort of to represent the era of my life. And I remember in 1999, we went to China, and all these other choirs from different countries will come and sing. So we represented Canada. There were choirs from the States, from Denmark, from other Asian countries, from it was literally an international children's choir festival. And it's an opportunity that I think really molded my understanding of the world. And I remember I had a Danish pen pal that I met, and we wrote letters to each other for a few years. Yeah, so it's just it was a really nice time.
Okay, those are amazing experiences. Let's play it. Homeland by Gustav Holst and arranged by Randall Stroop. singing in a choir must have like such an incredible power from a shared experience lens.
And I think something I forgot to say was that when we went to these festivals, we would bring our own repertoire of songs that we had practiced and that like we sang, domestically. But then we also learned songs that everybody sang. And so this was one of those songs that it wasn't just our choir. It was called the festival choir. So all of the choirs would come on stage together and we would sing these songs. And so this particular song was just like one of those that was so powerful when you have like hundreds of kids on this stage singing together in like 4-part harmony.
Wow. So, and are your children going to be in choirs? Is that something that you would encourage, having had that experience?
Absolutely. I think so. My son is almost 4, and I definitely would like for him to be involved in something similar where you have a chance to create music together, and then also share that music in Kingston also, but around the world too.
Well, the sharing gets me thinking about your identity song, because this is a song that feels so intimate and something that you're sharing with us related to your identity. So how did you come to this song?
So this song actually was introduced to me by my husband. And at the time when he introduced it, this was a number of years ago, we were still dating. And I guess I can explain some of the context of this song. Right after graduation from Teachers College, I decided to move to Kingston, even though I didn't have a job here or anything, but this is where I went to school, and this is where my boyfriend, or my husband now, where he was working. And so we decided, if I'm going to start with a school board, it doesn't make sense to start in Toronto, where I'm from, and then move to Kingston later. So I just decided to jump both feet in. And so after 2 days of supply teaching, I got my very first LTO. And I really struggled with that position. And I ended up leaving the position early. And because I was so new in the board, I really thought that my hopes of being a teacher were dashed. I had made a really rash decision, and I thought that, my relationship also was dashed. And so I remember driving with Calvin, and then he put this song on, and he didn't say anything, but the words were just such an encouragement to me, because he was saying, even though right now it's a really terrible time for you, I'm not going to give up on our dream of living here in Kingston and us being together. And I think that promise is something that has sort of carried us through a lot of different things. And I think even the phrase, "I won't give up," like later on in the song, it talks about all these different things that can happen, but you keep on trying, because you know that like we're meant to be together. And I think of that not so much just even in terms of my relationship, but in terms of teaching, is like, despite having a really rough start, I continued to be able to teach and to grow in my teaching. And so I look back with a lot of just like thankfulness for where I am and the people that have been there to support me. And yeah, so for me, it's a song about really overcoming and thriving in work and relationships and in life in general.
That's really beautiful. Okay, here's Jason Mraz. I Won't Give Up.
When I look into your eyes, it's like watching the night sky or a beautiful sunrise Well, there's so much they hold, and just like them old stars, I see that you've come so far to be right where you are. How old is your soul? Well, I won't give up on us, even if the skies get rough. I'm giving you all my love. I'm still looking up. And when you're needing your space to do some navigating, I'll be here patiently waiting to see what you find. 'Cause even the stars, they burn, some even fall to the earth. We got a lot to learn. God knows we're worth it. No, I won't give up. I don't want to be someone who walks away so easily. I'm here to stay and make the difference that I can make. Our differences, they do a lot to teach us how to use the tools and gifts we got here. We got a lot at stake. And in the end, you're still my friend, at least.
It's hard not to get emotional when you hear that song, and thinking about this being not just about your relationship, but your tenacity to stay in teaching. I think about the lines, I'm here to stay and make the difference that I can make. Or the other one where he says, our differences, they do a lot to teach us how to use our tools and the gifts we have. It's just like, it. Yeah. Was that your wedding song?
So this is sort of a funny, not funny story. Is this this was going to be our wedding song, and Kelvin's cousin got married the year before us.
Oh no!
Yes.
No.
And it was like they had started with another song and then moved into this song, and we were like, no, but but it was okay. We ended up using Stolen by Dashboard. I think it's Dashboard Confessional. So yeah.
So it all worked out okay.
It all worked out, but I think the song is it's a very special song for us. So
it can still be your song forever and always.
Mm-hmm.
Your pick-me-up song. You called it a pick-me-up song, even though the category is inspiration. And this is a very inspirational song that picks you up. So tell us a little bit about it.
Okay, so this song was actually the one song that I knew for sure I was going to pick when you first asked me if I wanted to be on P3. And it's one of my favorite worship songs, and it's a song that I've listened to sort of on repeat time and time again. Faith is something that's, always been a core of who I am. And this song really talks about, the chorus says, my hope is in you, Lord, all the day long. I won't be shaken by drought or storm. A peace that passes understanding is my song. And I sing, my hope is in you, Lord. And I think we sort of live in this age where a lot of how we feel depends on external circumstances. And so if things are going well, like you're feeling really great. But when things are not going well, like the whole world is falling apart. And I think with faith and with having this assurance of God's love, for me, it really gives me peace even when things aren't going well. And so yeah, I really think of the song as a bit of a proclamation that regardless of what's happening in my life, whether things are really awesome or they're really not awesome, God is still good. And I think it helps to give me a lot of perspective when I listen to it.
When you have something on a loop like that, almost like a mantra and almost like a prayer, grounding you to your belief systems and your core sense of self.
And And I remember the first time I watched the music video for this particular song, you see this really heart-wrenching narrative and how, like, despite this tragic thing that happens, like, this couple continues to stay strong in their faith. And I think a lot of the time faith, it encourages or pushes people to do things that maybe to people who don't have faith, it can seem really nonsensical. But I think that's sort of the beauty in it, is having that trust and belief, and knowing that, you know, the things of this earth are sort of temporary.
Okay, here is your pick-me-up song, My Hope Is in You by Aaron Schust.
My soul sings out as your word throws down far away. I sing to you and my heart cries holy hallelujah. Father, you're near. My hope is in you, Lord, all the day long. Understand it is my song, and I sing. My hope is in you, Lord. I wait for you, and my soul finds rest in my selfishness. You show me grace.
How are you feeling about your songs now that you've heard all of your P3?
I think it's very personal, which I guess is inherent in the title. Yeah, but I think it encompasses sort of three elements of, or maybe three more elements of who I am and what makes me me. And so, yeah, I feel good about these three songs.
You know, it's funny. Yes, it's called the Personal Playlist Podcast, and I've presented on it many, many times, but until somebody experiences it personally, it's hard to understand what it is or what one person might go through. I mean, the hours of thought and commitment just to pick three songs, it only really truly makes sense when you have a visceral experience somehow. So I'm happy that you've had it, and I'm happy that it was a positive one for you.
It's funny, I did something sort of similar with some of my grade 7s at the beginning of the year. Not to the same extent that you do, but I asked them to pick three songs. And it's kind of funny to hear like what really resonates with them. And, you know, with 11, 12 years of life, obviously their song choices are going to maybe be a little bit less varied. But yeah, I think it's a really good exercise to cause people to stop and think about what really matters.
Yeah, and you don't have to do the whole project. Yeah. Like I've given the outline to lots of people, but my husband's used it in a meeting of his staff, and I know lots of people who've done it as an icebreaker. It's another way, instead of saying, okay, fill this out and tell me something about yourself. It's a way to invite people to share themselves in unique ways. And that's kind of what I hope to do with the rest of my life on the side of all the other things I get to do in my life. So let's talk about some of the things you do in your life. If you want to get in touch with Catherine, you can find her on Twitter at Just Scribblings. And I hear that you haven't blogged lately, but you're an intermittent blogger, which I didn't know because I've seen you blog before, even for voice ed. So you can go to scribblingonthewalls.wordpress.com. You will be presenting at Mad PD coming up in May on financial literacy and shall we declare it here for the world?
Yes, this is the first time I guess I'm declaring it online for sure. So I am in the process of recording the first season of my podcast. Yeah.
I don't have one of Steven's do.
And the canned applause. And yeah, so it's called Becoming, kind of fitting because I'm actually reading through Michelle Obama's memoir right now. But it really sparked when I started this job, and I just was looking at all these different occupations and realizing I know so little about all these different pathways, and I just wanted to find out more. And so I reached out to people who are doing really interesting things. I asked them, when they were little, who did they want to be when they grew up? And then we just kind of talk through their journey to where they are today. And so it's a process of just seeing what people's life stories are about and how they ended up where they are. And it's been really, really interesting so far.
I'm excited to hear it. And all of our Voice Ed family are here to support you every step of the way, fellow podcaster. I want to thank you so much for coming out to the Personal Playlist podcast. Is there anything you want to add before I play you out?
Yes, I just want to add one thing. And it was about my nostalgic song. I feel like this is probably a good place to add something about it. I really struggled with whether or not I should put a Spice Girls song, because that was the very first cassette tape I bought for myself. And I was obsessed with Spice Girls for a really long time. And I think I made the right choice by going with Homeland, but I just wanted to put that in there because that is also an important part of my childhood.
So instead of Sir Duke, I should play you out with, no, tell me what you want, what you really, really want. Just for you. No, I'm still going with Sir Duke, but I'll definitely find a Spice Girl something to add to the blog post. So I want to thank you so much. Have a fantastic day.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you for joining us on the P3, the Personal Playlist podcast. I'm Noah Daniel. This is Voice Ed Radio, and I hope you have a fantastic day.